Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. I forgot to run my intro. That's alright. We'll worry about it later. Alright, so I'm actually going to experiment with a slightly different format. So what we're going to do here on the Wednesday show is I'm going to record kind of 3 shorter little sub-video clips. And I'm going to split those out into videos. That way, if you want to watch it later, you can catch each story separately and individually. So we're going to see how that works this time. We're going to cover 3 stories. The 3 stories that we're going to cover are the Canonical story. There's no story there yet, but somebody asked me about it the other day, looked into it, and so really they started looking at moving towards an IPO last year about this time, and so we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the Zuck versus the Schmuck. In other words, all of the stuff going on with Zuckerberg in Congress. And then we're going to have a look at Pop! OS because a lot of people have asked my opinion on it. I generally wasn't sure I was going to cover it, but we'll see. But anyway, that's kind of what we're going to be covering. I'm going to go ahead and start recording now before I forget, and we'll jump on over to the comments. Alright, so hello everybody, Libre Secure XP, the PC nerd. That's a new icon, isn't it? It looks pretty cool. It looks pretty purple. Alright, yeah, how can have a Zuck versus the Schmuck if he's also one? Well, yeah, I don't know. Heard creators of Vivaldi are removing Facebook from the speed dial by default because of everything going on. Well, maybe Apple will pull it out of the default back panel on iOS. Like, I haven't used Facebook on a phone in years. There is on an iPhone, there's always the Facebook and the Twitter API section in the background. It's like, really? You couldn't just wait for me to download the stupid thing? So that's kind of cool. It's 95 there in Phoenix. Lucky. At least it wasn't snowing today. Is it Pieter Finder? How's Pieter Fiddler? Hello there. Greetings, Joe. How's it going there? Fry Dismas Sayer OP. All right. In the notes that Zuckerberg had, one of his talking points was bringing up data collection that Apple does. He could have added Google, Microsoft, etc. in today's world. Well, he took a swing about Apple because Tim Cook took a swing against him in the media this week, or last week, rather. And it's kind of funny because Apple doesn't collect nearly as much data as the rest of them. Greetings, other Joe. We got all these Joes on here. And I'm drinking some Joe. I'm drinking some Joe right here. Joe in a cup. Carbon Programmer, how's it going there? CJ's looking good. Yeah, you're looking good, CJ. Yes, you are. You're looking good. He has no idea he's an internet famous cat. He's just like happy he gets the pets. 95 is bad weather. Oh, boy. Can the data Google collects on us one day be used against us? Absolutely. You know, it depends. You know, like, for example, look at the Cloud Act, where they can just go and grab stuff without a warning. Third-party doctrine, if a government contractor just, wants to do some experimentation on the data in Google, they could possibly get it. Now, Google doesn't hand over that data for those purposes nearly as readily as Facebook and Microsoft does. Microsoft is still kind of trying to prove to the world how much data they actually have, and so they're more open with their data than Google is. But yeah, I mean, literally it could be used against you. And that's one of the challenges with it. A lot of my classmates watch, that on phones. Ugh. Not good, man. Not good. Someone with Google wanted to, or the government had interest in soliciting the records. Yep. So those teens could search up stuff that may have their life ruined. Well, I mean, yeah, for sure. But of course, being that most of your government officials are also watching that stuff, I don't know if that's a big deal. I don't know. That's kind of scary. Cats Dogs. I'm going to call you Cats Dogs. I know that's not your name, but Cats DGS. Yep. So greetings. How's it going there? Oxycodone, right? No, Oxycodone Night. What? Uh-oh. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about kind of our first story. So what I'm going to do is, just to make my editing slightly easier, is I'm going to go ahead and run my intro screen a few times. So you'll see the intro screen going, one for each time. And then what I'm going to do is, as the intro screen runs, I'm going to run as if comments weren't there. And then in between stories, we're going to go back and get the comments. Patrons will be able to have access to the stream after I put up at least the first story from the post. Like if you like it in a list, you'll be able to access it. I'm going to unlist it. I'm not going to take it down. I'm just going to unlist it from public. And so what I'm then going to do is I'm going to split this apart into three different videos so I can put those up over the next few days. Of course, tomorrow we might still just do a live stream as well anyway. And Friday we should have news. I have no idea what we're going to cover in the news yet. It's been a crazy week for the news. So I'm getting any coughs out of my system. One final drink, and then we'll go ahead and do this. First story we're going to cover is the Canonical future direction. For whatever reason, I have some frog in my throat. Hey, kitty, get that frog out of my throat. We'll get the frog out. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So I've had some requests about Canonical, their direction, and rumors of an IPO. Of course, an initial price offering, as in taking the company public. Of course, Canonical is the company behind Ubuntu, probably the most prolific Linux distribution. And so I thought I'd go ahead and look into it and make a brief little commentary on it. And there's not a lot of news here. Mostly it was news maybe like last year. But basically the issue is that it kind of started right before Ubuntu 17.04 came out last April. They announced the end of Unity 8. They will no longer be developing Unity 8. That caused a big ruckus as Ubuntu went back to GNOME. And a lot of people have asked, said, oh, why'd they go back to GNOME and all this? And what does Ubuntu really work for? What are my thoughts about all this? So first, let's go ahead and dive back into a few of the older articles. So this is from ZDNet, and basically just talking about Mark Shuttleworth himself revealed that he was probably making Canonical ready for an IPO. This is, of course, it says early April. This was early April last year. Note that this is an older article. What they did is they wanted to stop the Unity 8 development, and they wanted to focus on the core Ubuntu, the IoT, and the cloud infrastructure. Those are kind of the focuses that the Canonical group wants to have. Unity wasn't necessarily a profitable area. Now, some people have questioned what do they do now that they don't have Unity. Well, Unity was just the desktop that Canonical worked on. Canonical also owns and works on Ubuntu. And they're not slowing that down, because if you do anything on an IoT or a cloud infrastructure, you know that Ubuntu is a big option. If I create an AWS account, the AWS account goes right on into there, and you can go right into there and just auto-select to auto-install in Ubuntu, an Ubuntu build really quick. Just spin up Ubuntu. And that's the type of stuff they're working on. So I actually think that streamlining everything, taking the Unity staff, rediversing them to other places in the company to focus more on the core development, IoT, and cloud, means we're going to have a better product, because the desktop Ubuntu's not going away. They just made the option to bring in the GNOME desktop environment instead of the Unity, because it's something that a full other independent development team is working on that. Now, other people have asked, why do you use GNOME? Part of the reason probably is because that's what it was a long time ago before they created Unity. I agree with one person. Why not make it like Budgie? Something that's modern and new and different. Especially since Budgie is a much more traditional, or at least can be themed better as a more traditional desktop. But maybe that's what they're not going for, because Unity itself was never really a themable desktop that you could actually do a lot with. And so, of course, there's another article from, just 6 months ago or so, October, They're talking about heading for an IPO. Some people think this is going to be the end of Ubuntu. Some people think this is a good thing. And of course, somebody had cornered Mark and Shuttleworth and had a brief discussion with him. This was actually just on Reddit a couple of days ago. And here he's just kind of talking about the same stuff he was talking about before. Nothing new here at all. So people have asked my views, what are my opinions on this, and so that's kind of why I want to do this. On the positive end, it means more money and more development coming into the system, and that means that we have probably more feature-rich, more ability to do some of the things. If there's been a big bug list or a big log of desired features or requested features, they'll have more revenue, more capital, hire more people, and make sure things get done. That's the positive side. The negative side is if big companies, like, it would not surprise me in the slightest if some of the big tech companies want to buy up a portion of it and redirect it. Now, in this interview, it was either this interview that I just showed on the screen or the earlier one from ZDNet, where he said, you know, we're not exactly going to let any investors dictate the direction we go. We already know the direction we want to go. But anytime you're bringing on investors, you always have the opportunity to listen to those investors and sometimes have a little bit of the coercion. And of course, if you didn't watch the movie Social Network based on Facebook, since that's been in the news, you know, the unearthly thing. Now, the funny thing about that movie is listening to Mark Zuckerberg talk about the Social Network. He's like, I'm surprised they got nothing right except every single shirt they had me wearing in that movie I actually owned. It's like, what? And so that's kind of one of those funny little things about it. And that's that the reason I bring all that up is because investors came in and they decided instead to finally bring on advertisers and other things. And the investors directed the direction for the company that probably led them in this bad scenario they are in right now. And so that's kind of what the circumstance situation happens to look like. And so the reality here is that it's a good thing, especially since Shuttleworth knows the direction he wants to go and is going to be resisting bringing on investors that are trying to dictate the direction of the company. That's not what he wants to do. But we still do have the risk that big companies like Microsoft could come in and start owning a big portion. And if Microsoft starts owning a big portion of Canonical, that will raise some serious questions in the Linux community. And rightly so. Some people, of course, myself included, I have some concerns even with some of the collection that the new 1804 Ubuntu wants to do. I have some quibbles about that, but it's not nearly the level Windows 10 is, and it's not nearly as difficult. And it's simply a matter of in the install, don't select to send the info if you don't want to send it. And once the system is installed, remove app port and remove popcon, and that takes care of everything Ubuntu is collecting. And that's not collecting nearly, like I said, the amount of data Windows 10 is. It's just collecting lists of your apps and your hardware profile, which some people are okay with that, but there are certainly a lot of people who use Linux for security and privacy who cannot have their hardware profile leaked like that. And so that's my biggest concern, is that you know, it's doing that. However, Ubuntu is not specifically built as a privacy-centric browser. You want to use a specific privacy-centric browser, you're going to be looking at Tails. You're going to be looking at, so you have Tails you can look at, you can have Cubes you can look at, you have the new Heads you could look at, you have Whonix you could look at. So there's options for that. So my overall take on this entire direction, is it a bad thing that Canonical wants to go out and do an IPO of some form? I don't think so. I don't think it's a big problem. It's something certainly to watch for. Definitely it's something that we want to know who those investors are and the directions they want to take, and if there is any side note. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm not super concerned, but absolutely I want to keep an eye out for that. All right. We're going to stop recording, and then I'm just going to go ahead and record a few strips. All right, so let's see. Lots of comments came on there. Okay, I heard the LA sheriff has been putting facial recognition technology on the camera. Yes, Yes, they are doing that, indeed. And funny thing is now Facebook, if you still do have a Facebook account, I deleted mine. If you still have a Facebook account, make sure you log in there, go into the settings, and turn off the facial recognition stuff. That's creepy. One channel I think people should support on Patreon. Well, thank you, man. Yeah, I think I'm, and one of the things I need to do on Patreon, and I'm going to be soliciting video ideas for that probably tonight, and that is that I need to figure out what type of Patreon levels and things I can do and would like to do. Those are kind of some of those things that that I want to look into. So absolutely, Patreon is patreon.com/TomM. Let's see. I predict there is a new form of AI in the development that can also read lips. Probably. The problem there is what language are you speaking? And then, of course, if you get people to know about this, you can always mess up the AI. Like this. Oh, boy. Greetings, Spin Viking. How's it going there? It means that Patreon has Bukkake on it. What? Canonical's direction, obviously down until they get rid of the new master, which won't happen soon. Master! Master! Where's our dream diamond? No, wait, hold on. I better not say any more. Metallica gets kind of crazy when you don't pay them for their music. Alright, some names being made up for Zuckerberg are just hilarious. Most of them are unsuitable for the standard of language. Yep. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Can imagine when everybody's data gets out because a major leak and the tech companies will be sued. Well, no, they won't. They won't. That's the problem, Carbon. Equihacks had the largest data leak. 2 weeks later, IRS was like, yeah, we're going to use them to verify stuff. Now, of course, under pressure, they recanted of that. But nevertheless, no. Equihacks should be closed and every executive should be in prison until we get time to figure it out. That's going to clean up corporate America. Canonical will be taken over by Microsoft. That's probably the case. Actually, Carbon, as of today, the stock price has been shooting way up again. Daniel, got your mouse pad Monday. Very cool. I hope you enjoy it. Yes, N. Vaughn, if you're on, I still do not have an address and no response. If I do not hear from N. Vaughn by next Wednesday, I'm going to draw another name. I still have one mouse pad here. I've not heard from one of the people. I sent 2 messages, and I need to, I need to get that out. So if I don't get an address by like next Wednesday, I'm going to draw another name. All right, I think Canonical is done with IPO garbage data grab. Okay. Facebook goes bankrupt, they will have to destroy... no, actually, Carbon Programmer. This is one of the things that the Radio Shack case demonstrated, is that it buried inside of most terms and conditions, and it would not surprise me if Facebook also has it, is that if a company buys them out, you're signing over the rights to have that new company owning all of your data. That's why, despite Radio Shack going bankrupt, everyone and their brother was trying to buy out their data list, because Radio Shack has done one of the best jobs of collecting actual physical addresses of people, and people wanted their databases. Someone ended up taking it to court and finding out that, indeed, yep, they can sell the data as part of the bankruptcy because it's considered a corporate asset. So no, they will not have to destroy all the user data if they go bankrupt. They will just sell out to the next biggest company. That's what happens in our world. Forbes now reports he's the 7th richest person, ticking back up. Yeah, the stock is going back up, by the way. Joe's also concerned. Yep. I mean, it's very possible Microsoft takes over Canonical. That's kind of scary. So in which case, yeah, MX Linux might be one of the ones to go to in that case. Actually, Linux Mint has the Debian edition. I assume that if something goes really bad with Canonical, Linux Mint team's probably going to focus more on the Debian than they do now. So thoughts on Canonical going the route? Actually, Bad Wolf, I have a lot of videos on that, and I've addressed that in many places. So If you want, I can hunt down the videos that I did, but I actually did a few different videos on that. Most of these perceived as big, vital companies get support. Yeah, too big to fail. Whoa, lost my place. Lost my place. MS can't change the license under Ubuntu, can they? I'm not sure if they would have the power. They might. I don't know. There are groups of people that are starting to go against technology called neo-Luddies. Really? It's interesting. I'll have to look that up. There's a video of someone in Morocco destroying a Samsung phone with a hooked knife to denounce technology. Has there been more people moving to Linux lately? You know, I have not actually looked at the... let me look at browser stats and see. Not sure why I'm on this little abbreviated version. Yeah, let me see if I can find... There we are. W3 schools is where I want to go. All right, browser OS. Yeah, I mean, it's been, well, I mean, it's about the same. It actually seemed to peak in August at like 6.0, but it's back to 5.6, 5.7. So not much. Of course, the Windows keeps going up. We're not sure if that has, you know, what exactly would have to do with that, but it's been holding pretty steady most of the time. So I think we just need more of that. Let's see. So it doesn't look like a ton more. Only got a terabyte hard drive, install Fedora 27 GNOME on it. Nice. Yeah, it's a little heavy, but no well. Follow Studio apt-get model in the terminal. Not Fedora. No, use DNF. And I think it's DNF install, I think. I forget. It's DNF something. I forget. So this is what I get. Let's see. Does anyone else know that then about... know anything about MX Linux? Yeah, MX Linux is based on Debian. Now, does that have sysv or does that have systemd? I forget. But MX Linux is a XFCE build based on Debian, and it is actually rockin' awesome. The thing about social media is all the crooks that post their crimes to everyone, including local police. Yeah, that is good. Kitty, stay away from the camera. Kitty's trying to move the camera. Canonical goes south. We've got other distros to switch to. Yep. Greetings, Limler. Yeah, I did the... I'm breaking this down into 3 different stories. I did the first story on the Canonical. I'm going to re-release it in a edited version later. Didn't see a message for the message from the mouse pad. Joe, I don't think you were on the list. Were you of entries or of winners? Yeah, you were number 27 on the list, and you did not get the draw, unfortunately. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. All right. The teens who watch, yeah, pretty much. Yep. I heard even if you delete your Google accounts, they still have data under a backup server. most likely because everyone does backup. Now, Facebook is supposedly deletes them. I think Google, in theory, supposedly deletes them. I don't know. If your computer hardware, they have your ID. Every piece of hardware in your equipment is assigned a unique ID hash. Yes. In fact, Mel Gibson, part of the thing that I mentioned in the Ubuntu is PopCon requires a specific UID code, which can be linked back to your physical computer. And if you change it, it just reports as a different piece of data. You even contact Google and the companies to delete your data from the backups. Well, if you delete the data, they're supposed to delete it from the backups as well. Is Elementary 5 on hold? I don't know. I don't follow the elementary news a whole lot. I'm not a fan of the distro. Have I tried i3WM? I've dabbled with it a few times. It's really not for me because I don't have time to sit down and learn it. That's kind of my problem right now. Downfall will be the data companies will be the downfall of lives. Yeah, that's the thing is we'll get to that when we get into the Mark Zuckerberg news. But oh, you forgot to enter the giveaway. Well, maybe I'll do another one sometime. Linux has system D disabled but built off Debian stable branch. Okay, all right. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and do our Facebook story next. But what I need to do is I need to rebuild my banner. So what should I call this one? I got to start by spelling his name right? Is he, I don't know, does he spell his name with an E or a U? I forget. Mark Zuckerberg, how do you spell your name? Let me not do it on this computer. I think I can pull it up over here because I don't think I need these windows anymore either. Gotta make sure I spell his name right. Alright, it is with an E. So I almost spelled it wrong. I don't want to do that. Hey, more scammers. Getting called by scammers left and right. I don't even know what I want to call this one. Well, let's just... Hey, cat, want to move? We'll just call it the Zuck versus the Schmucks. Why not? In fact, I may not even release this one in final form. I'm going to pull from other news sources so I didn't have to pull everything myself. All right. Banners. Title. Place. Export. All right, let's see. Call him Zuck. Yeah, I usually do answer the scammers. They've been hanging up on me more often than not though lately. So even if I try and answer the scammers, so they'll kind of pick up. They, you know. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and rerun the intro again. May as well start recording. Let's see. All right, save my spot there, and then now we'll go ahead and start the next. Well, welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we are going to take just a little glance at some of the things going on in this Mark Zuckerberg at the Senate hearing. So I just simply call this the Zuck versus the Schmucks. Because I got to say, I've watched about 75% of this. I missed a little bit of it, but I watched 75% of this across both days, sitting there watching the stuff, thinking, oh God, our lives right now hang between the balance of a hacker who wants to control our data and a bunch of politicians who don't even know what that means. Half the time, I find myself rooting for Mark Zuckerberg. And for a guy that just deleted my Facebook account entirely because I was so sick of that crap, that's a hard thing to do. Because if I go to the flip side of the coin, then I have to root for the Congress and the Senate. And what I found is most of them have no idea what any of this stuff is. And so I actually pulled out a few different video clips, and I want to look at what these clips are. And in the midst of all of these clips, there's some of the people asked really great questions, and I was shocked at how little Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, actually knows about Facebook. I don't know, Senator. Senator, I don't know. I don't know, Senator. Senator, I don't know. I don't know, Senator. You could probably compile, if somebody had the desire to go through and do all that, somebody could probably grab all of the whole, whatever it is, 12 hours or whatever of all of it, and string it together and make 7 hours or so of, I don't know, Senator. Senator, I don't know. I don't know, Senator. Senator, I don't know. I don't know, Senator. Senator, I don't know. And for the CEO of Facebook, he should certainly know a slight bit more about the company, especially when he's being dragged in front of them. And he should definitely know a whole lot more about the Cambridge Analytica system in which he caused the problem. But I'm not just rooting for the Congress and the senators, because on the flip side of the coin, some of the Congress and the senator people all asked some of the most stupid questions that made me question why in the world we even let people this old and senile into office to begin with, because it's very clear they have no idea what they're talking about. Oh boy, should we go ahead and dive on into some of these things? Let's go ahead and have a look at some of these guys here. This will be exciting.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I'll say this particular video is pulled from Washington Post. I'm going to link all of these down in the description below. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg, he doesn't want everyone to know what hotel he's staying at.
No.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that might be what this is all about.
All right. So, yeah, that's kind of the case. This is about the privacy. That senator and Dick Durbin, Senator, I forget where he's from. I think he was the one from Illinois. No, I forget which senator he was from. Senator Durbin. That was a fabulous question. He understands. He gets to the root of the issue, at least part of the root of the issue. All right. So he gets to the root of the issue to ask Mark, would you be comfortable sharing this data publicly? And the reason that's significant is if you watched how Facebook unfolded over the years, what you started to see is that Facebook started to do, they started to make more and more and more of your personal life by default publicly available. Such to the point that if you are not on top of it, your public profile became indexable by Google. That's the level of problem. And once it's indexable by Google, it can now be scrapped and scraped. And that raises a serious issue. That is what it is about. that senator nailed it. He's like, this is about the privacy of the people. It's about privacy. And that's the thing that we need to focus on. So let's go ahead and can watch the next clip.
In 2015, we heard the report that this developer, Alexander Kogan, had sold data to Cambridge Analytica. That's in violation of our terms.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this. First, this clip is from USA Today. Again, I'll have the links down there below. So what's going on here is in the midst of this is the person used the app. Now, here's the thing, and Mark Zuckerberg did a good job, and he tried to say this over and over and over, and it's something I understand. He doesn't actually take our data, bundle it, and sell it, or even take our data, bundle it, and rent it. Okay? Number one is the advertisers can choose how to target and market somebody on Facebook. They don't ever get the data, but they're able to target it. I have issues with that, but that's not as bad. The thing is that the senators and Congress people, all these people making these laws could not seem to grasp and understand is that it is the third-party apps have been for years allowed to harvest any amount of data if you just said, yes, I will allow you to access my data. That's where the problem came into being, is that this guy created the app that a few people, in fact, it's really funny, 10 people downloaded that app in Australia, and those 10 people resulted in 65,000 people in Australia's data being compromised because of those 10 people who simply downloaded the app that this guy had. Now, that is where we're going through. So he downloads the app, harvests the data. That's the part that was perfectly legal within the terms and conditions, and it may or may not still be the case now. But what happened is anybody who agreed to use the app, not only did it scrape your data out of your profile, but also all of your friends' data out of the profile. That's what everybody's having an issue with, is that the friends' data. It's one thing if I want to blast my data all over the internet. It's another thing if I want to open up my contact list and read it to everybody. That's what the problem happens to be. And so this guy is simply a violation of terms of selling it. Why would you possibly? Okay, that is like handing a firearm to a 5-year-old and saying, don't pull the trigger, kid. You're giving, in a data-hungry world, you are handing somebody a bundle of users' data on their word they're not going to sell it for millions of dollars. That's what's going on. And that's what happened. And it was a violation of terms. And maybe we need to not be giving that data to begin with. But let's go ahead and hear what Mark has to say.
Correct. And were you a part of a decision? Were you part of a discussion that resulted in a decision not to inform your users?
I don't remember a conversation like that.
Okay. Anytime there is a hack or a breach by United States law, the company must disclose it. They never did. Because it wasn't technically a hack. Or was it? It was an illegal sale of private data that originated on Facebook. Does that qualify as a hack? That kind of is the fundamental question.
But the reason why...
Are you aware of anyone
I don't know.
in leadership at Facebook who was in a conversation where a decision was made not to inform your users, or do you believe no such conversation ever took place?
I'm not sure whether there was a conversation about that, but I can tell you the thought process at the time of the company, which was that in 2015, when we heard about this, we banned the developer, and we demanded that they delete all the data and stop using it, and same with Cambridge Analytica.
And
they told us
your
they had.
testimony in that regard, but I'm talking about notification of the users. And this relates to the issue of transparency.
All right. So that is that fundamental question. Is this transparency or not? That's fundamentally the issue and the question. What is the degree of transparency they're having? The data was leaked. That is the problem with any company collecting any amount of data, is that it's possible to be harvested, it's possible to be hacked, it's possible to be leaked. It's that danger that you have to have as you're going back and forth. It's this back and forth giving and taking of data. So this is why you have to be excessively careful what is involved in the systems you're using. Under the hood, in the hood, outside the hood, whatever, and you have to be knowledgeable about some of this stuff. So that's kind of gets to that issue of there was a leak, why didn't anybody know? And once again, I don't know.
Who's your biggest competitor?
Okay, this is another one for the moron senator. And I'm going to say that, and that's probably maybe not fair. He just doesn't understand what's going on. And Mark here, this is a case where Mark is trying his hardest to make this guy understand a technology or an industry he has no idea about. So have a look at this one. This is one of the ones that made me concerned for our current state.
Senator, we have a lot of competitors.
Who's your biggest?
I think the categories of, do you want just one? I'm not sure I can give one, but can I give a bunch? Mm-hmm. So there are three categories that I would focus on. One are the other tech platforms, so Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. We overlap with them in different ways.
Do they provide the same service you provide?
In different ways, different parts of it,
Let me put it
yes.
this way. If I buy a Ford and it doesn't work well and I don't like it, I can buy a Chevy. If I'm upset with Facebook, what's the equivalent product that I can go sign up for?
Well, there's the second category that I was going to talk about.
I'm not talking about categories.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because the guy's like, I don't understand categories. The problem here is that Facebook does operate under a variety of categories. They are in a few businesses. They are in a business of providing people access and connection, but they are also in a business of selling things. That's why Mark is trying to say there are multiple categories. If you're talking about connection, we connect here, and this are the competitors in that category of our industry. If you're talking about selling advertisements, this is the category. Like, Google's not necessarily the best competitor to Facebook if you're talking about communication, because who uses Google Plus? Okay, does it exist? I think it still does. Who uses Google Plus? But they are an absolute competitor when it comes to advertising, because Google and Facebook are the #1 and #2 respective ad agencies in the world. And so you have a variety, and this is where Mark is trying his hardest to get this senator to understand that indeed there are there are different categories and a lot of overlap. And while I agree Facebook may be a little too big, I wouldn't necessarily say they have a monopoly. Possibly. It's up for debate.
Talking about is there real competition you face? Because car companies face a lot of competition. If they make a defective car, it gets out in the world, people stop buying that car, they buy another one. Is it an alternative to Facebook in the private sector?
All right, so again, is there an alternative to Facebook in the private sector? I mentioned this before. You can host your own social media platform. If you're holding out on Facebook because your family you guys want to share photos between your family, dude, buy a cPanel and spin up the open source social media platform that you can get on Fantastico on any cPanel. I mean, honestly. Obviously, not everybody can do that, but it's not all that hard. There's reasons for sure to stay on Facebook, but don't let one or two little reasons keep you there. And do I think Facebook has an absolute monopoly? No, because Facebook is becoming increasingly irrelevant among young people. Instagram is becoming more relevant. Of course, that's the same company, but maybe that's part of the brilliance of the company, So I can stand behind that. All right, let's go ahead and have a look at the next one.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
Apparently I have two things on there. Let me find the next spot. I didn't notice that I had the same clip twice. Derp. Hello. No. Can't find my space. We're going to have to play a little bit of overlapping audio.
Quote, connecting people around the world.
Mr. Zuckerberg, does Facebook consider itself a neutral public forum?
Senator, we consider ourselves to be a platform for all ideas.
Let me ask the question again. Does Facebook consider itself to be a neutral public forum? And representatives of your company have given conflicting answers on this. Are you a First Amendment speaker expressing your views?
So the reason this question is significant, this is Ted Cruz. The reason this question is significant is this is a case where Zuckerberg isn't answering the question. And so this is the case where we have the competent senator and Mark Zuckerberg. So in this case, what he's asking is, I am allowed to take this platform here at Switch to Linux on YouTube, and I'm allowed to say whatever I really want to say within the confines of the law, okay? If I'm providing a service like YouTube, I could either limit it down to exactly the type of speech I want, or I could say we are an open neutral platform. I can't declare to be an open neutral platform and behave like the other. So he's going to talk about here an exception to the rule. And what he's talking about is that he's going to reference, and I cut this part out of the video because it just got too long, but he references after this, watch the whole clip, numerous conservative groups that were all blocked from Facebook, but not a single person of the opposing party or view or persuasion were blocked from it.
Or are you a neutral public forum allowing everyone to speak?
Senator, here's how we think about this. I don't believe that there is certain content that clearly we do not allow, right? Hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community. From that perspective, that's why we generally try to refer to what we do as a platform for all ideas.
Let me try, just because the time is constrained. It's just a simple question. The predicate for Section 230 immunity under the CDA is that you are a neutral public forum. Do you consider yourself a neutral public forum, or are you engaged in political speech, which is your right under the First Amendment?
All right, so that's kind of what he's talking about. There's cases, so don't listen to anyone. The kind of the take home from this part of this discussion is, don't let anyone on the one hand just say it was all the senators raked Mark Zuckerberg over. There's a whole lot of Mark Zuckerberg giving good answers, a whole lot of Mark Zuckerberg giving bad answers. There's a whole lot of that. What did all this boil down to? All this boiled down to regulation. Over and over and over, we heard, will you help us create regulation and laws? Will you help us create regulation and laws? They want to have regulation and laws, but they're missing one major fundamental point. The one major fundamental point that they're missing is, as they're doing all this, the one fundamental point that they are missing is that my train of thought has derailed, has completely fallen off the tracks. The one thing they're missing is that we need a broader privacy system, not a short-sighted one, not one looking just at Facebook, not one looking just at Twitter. We need a broader system. I have to have the ability in this country for me to tell a company, you may not have my data, especially if I'm not doing business with you. Equihacks, for example. I don't want to do business with Equihacks. I don't borrow money. I don't want a credit score. Stop trying to push your credit score on me and stop harvesting up and sweeping up every bit of my data behind you. That's the challenge. That's the problem. And so that's kind of what I have to say about that. Alrighty. Whoa, lots of folks came on. Okay, now think, how many of those same congressmen received money from Facebook? There was actually a list of those that were repeated, and I can't remember what it was, and I forgot to look it up. So yes, you can actually go online and find the list of the congressmen. It was end up being several of them, like got $6,000 or $10,000 or something. Where will all the teenagers of today go when their lives are ruined? McDonald's. What were some of those other open source social media PHP drop-ins? I don't know. I know of that one that you're talking about, OSSN. There's other ones. Another one is install BuddyPress on top of WordPress. That seems okay. A little clunkier probably. But there's, just do some internet searches. You'll find some. Let's see. Will they be able to rebuild their lives? I think probably, hopefully, but I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Safe because I never used Zuckerbook. Do you mean by the teens who are now adults will go to prison? I don't know. Zuckerberg pretty well prepped for legal reasons. Oh, kitty. He wants the coffee. Is secretly a robot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's secretly a robot. That was a good AI test. It'd be great, especially if it was backed up on the other one. Deadspin on yesterday. Prison's the only place you can turn out because no one wants to accept them in jobs. To SHA-2 encryption standard and threatening some SHA-1 won't be converted, meaning software and hardware may quit working. CDs, photos, hard drives. That's exciting. I have to look into that, Mel. Turn to crime to make money. There was actually a case of a guy, I don't know, about 5 years ago or so, down in, I think, Georgia, somewhere down south. And he robbed the bank. Like, he had cancer. He couldn't afford treatments. He robbed the bank so he'd go to prison and get free treatment. Future's looking more ugly than pretty, probably. TGITFH. Does anyone else feel we're living in a Black Mirror episode? If I ever watched a Black Mirror episode, I might. Really, I don't like one of my posts. They didn't like one of my posts. They wanted my phone number. Yeah, that's what I'd tell them. No, you can't have my phone number. Oh, come on, Joe. You're a Russian spy. You didn't know that? Come on, man. Come on. Anyone else experiencing the stream dropping out? Everything looks good on my end. No video there. Huh. Are we back online? I'm not showing any problems on my end. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, it says it's live now. Do I have myself? Yep. Nope. Apparently I'm there. Okay. Yeah, I exist. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't notice. I didn't see any alerts in OBS either. So, I don't know. My ex-wife's always getting upset. Some BS that was happening on Facebook. She's always telling me I need to get Facebook interviews. Facebook didn't enforce HTTPS. Yep. That's it. Hello, Jonathan. How are you? Really bad about technology. Most people have an IQ less than 50 and think it's great. Just look at all that. You see, it's Windows 10's phone. YouTube should be called before Congress. Lousy service videos. I don't know about that, man. Hey, they're doing a pretty good job. Come on. Keegan, greetings. How's it going there? Those third parties are created by them to cast blame on the fall guy. That's very possible. Very possible. Porter Smith. Hello, Tom. I have added MySpace, Facebook, Xmaster, Xservice, and Walmart to the modified version. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, I didn't include Facebook because of the number of people that still use it, and I still occasionally did jump over for a client, which is kind of annoying, but oh well, it is what it is. I've been thinking about putting it on a secondary block list on my system and just allowing access to one of my development computers to it. I was thinking about that being a neat option. I've added a couple. Actually, I haven't pushed the upload. I haven't pushed up there. I'll try and get it tonight. I plan on updating the script. There's another session replay script that I found that I put into the system. Chad's lost. Chad, I have a hosts file that will block all of the advertising stuff. Really good way to drop it in your computer. The downside is, like, don't run it on a Windows computer without doing some testing first. I myself have seen on a Windows 8 computer, fully updated, it didn't seem to be able to get on the internet when I deployed it. Other people have told me similar things with other versions of Windows. Careful on Windows, but if you're on anything else, take a look at that script. It's on my site, switchtolinux.com. Go down to the tab for resources, look at privacy resources, and you'll see the scripts there. Doesn't matter if it's not voluntary to give your information. It's always medical away. It's your medical records, financial information, Equihacks. Oh, and don't forget, Al, that Facebook wanted to do a deal with hospitals to gather all your record data as well. It's anonymous, of course, but they're going to run it through a computer AI to match the record with the person. Yeah. Video is unavailable. What? It should be available. Majority of all online ad spending goes through Google and Facebook. Yes, that is why that they do have a duopoly. Yes, maybe an oligarchy, and that's the problem. That's the problem, is that the ads pretty much are run by those two companies, and if it's not in one of those two companies, it's getting close to malware. So that's why I block those. And Anna Rita, greetings. Hate speech. Hate, 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 hate. Spider eyes, nudity, send nudes. Yeah, that's the funny thing. Mark Zuckerberg's like, we don't want to have nudity in there. Just send us all your nudes. Yeah, good going there, Mark. Good going there. Use proprietary software, prevents it from getting bricked so they can't update it. Kitson got his mouse pad. Very cool. I hope you like it, man. I got mine right here. Alright. Seeing all the ugly tech would be better off living in the woods. Off top, but can I dual boot Windows 7 on Linux separate SSDs? Yeah. That's actually the only way I run my dual boots, is I always put separate operating systems on separate disks. And then what I'll actually do, you can actually set, depending on how you want your setup to go, if you want it to always default into Windows, just, keep Windows the main system. If you want it to default into Linux, let grub find Windows, pull up the grub menu, and then you can boot into Windows or boot into Linux from there. I usually manage it just by going into loading the computer into the boot menu is what I do, because I have each hard disk will boot off of its main operating system first. I'll just use my boot menu, usually F12, F11, or F9 to get a boot menu, and then from there I'll just select whatever disk that I want to boot. So yeah, absolutely. Hate speech laws are created to make it illegal to point out the crimes this minority group are doing. Yeah. Stream dropping again. See, it's got to be something on YouTube, because I'm getting perfect feed out. My board's telling me everything's good. It's 3 times for you as well. And I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. It's got to be something on YouTube. If it were my end, I would actually see it dropping on my end, and I'm getting a solid 5 megabit per second upload speed. Yeah, I'm guessing it's a YouTube issue. You know what we might do? I might actually, since we're pushing an hour, I think I might save the Pop OS, and maybe let's just go ahead and record the Pop OS video tomorrow. That way we'll just kind of wrap this up here shortly, especially since it's dropping. Yeah, stream always gets close to the truth. Yeah, it's their listen to my microphones. File works fine on Linux Mint. Yep. Can't write through my phone. Mark now must be eating popcorn right now and laughing like the crazy man he is. Probably. I wonder if you could create a sandbox in the browser to give false info for the creepier companies. Is there a free download available Windows XP? I'd look for a torrent. Just be very careful with it. Very, very, very careful with it at this point. Yeah, it looks like it's just dropping for some people. I don't know. Should we go ahead and do the Pop OS? I'll let you guys decide. Should we do Pop OS, or should we save that for a stream tomorrow? We're pushing 1 hour. I could do it. In the meantime, we're just going to go ahead and want to feed the kitty. We'll feed the kitty for now, and then we'll kind of decide what we're going to do. All right, kitty. All right, kitty. Feed the kitty. You want to reach your paw in there? No, it's in here. Do you want to reach your paw in there? He's just too trained to me give it to him. Right, this one over here. Over here. This camera. There you go. Yeah. Are they thinking looking good? Kitson's also on Linux Mint right now. Very good. Wonder if the period will help or hurt. Oh, I don't know. That's a hard call. That's a really hard call. If it's going to help or hurt Mark's political aspirations. I think his political aspirations were doomed a while ago, honestly. But I don't know. Do it now. Do the Pop OS. All right. I got a lot of people saying do Pop OS. Let's go ahead and do it. All right. So, of course, Pop OS is the System 76 system. I am not sponsored by System 76. Just an FYI. This is not a sponsored video. But we'll go ahead and load it up. So, of course, Pop OS is going to load essentially as a an OEM install. So, you know, there's the two parts to install it. The first is you run the installation. The second is you boot the computer up and it finishes. So, you know, basically how OEM will run. Of course, I got to start recording, so I got to redo some of that again. All right, so here we're on Pop OS. This is the loading screen. So Pop OS is essentially like it's an OEM type install for System 76. This video is not sponsored by System 76, but if you do want a computer that is running Linux by default, check them out. But this is their in-house OS. It's very fast. I found this so amazingly fast to install, way faster than anything else I've ever actually seen. It does behave like an OEM install, so you add the disk into the system, run it, and then you have to reboot the system, and then it goes through and finishes the completion, and it was done way faster than I had anticipated it. All right. So we're going to go ahead and log in, and the reason I didn't do a whole lot of discussion on this one earlier is because it is Ubuntu running GNOME, basically, and it's running the more like a stock vanilla GNOME, I think they call it. I forget. I'm not up on all the GNOME terminology. You'll have to forgive me for that. And I really haven't reviewed it because Ubuntu's Ubuntu. It's good. I like it. GNOME, I'm not a fan of it, and so I just kind of looked at that, and I'm still not completely sure what are all the differences between this and how you used to have Ubuntu GNOME. Nowadays, of course, running Ubuntu with the same desktop environment, it will, you have the sidebar. They've customized it a little bit. This is more like Ubuntu running a stock GNOME on it. So first thing we're going to do, since this is Ubuntu, and before we do since it's GNOME, and before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and have a look at the system resources, if I can find it, so we can see how much processing power. So I gave this virtual machine 6 gigs of RAM and 4 processing cores. And you'll see here that it is running on 1.2 gigabytes. So that's actually fairly standard, a little bit low for GNOME, which is good. So we have a nice system. I haven't played around with it a whole lot. I did get the updates running through. So here there's one more update available. So we're going to go ahead and run that. There was one challenge that I saw, and that is that the software center here, the store, it's very nice in its design, but okay, everything's good there. This is the thing, everything was empty for a while. So apparently you either just needed to update the system or you needed to reboot the computer or whatever one it happened to be. That finally gave me things back in the system. So now no complaints, we're back. This was actually missing. So basically we get a GNOME desktop on Ubuntu with very minimal software. We do have the full LibreOffice suite. This is, well, not the absolute full. We have the Calc, we have the Draw, Impress, and Writer. Of course, it is running 6.02, I believe, is the version. So 6.0.2.1. And let's go ahead and let's check the spelling, because everyone wants me to always check the spell checker, see if that's working. So indeed, the spell checker is working. Of course, it can't. Really? It doesn't know that that's supposed to be spelling? Okay. Whatever. We do have synonyms installed, so that's all set up out of the box. We have access to a variety of different software. I didn't check what software is available. Does not look like Skype happens to be available right here. Let's look at Spotify. Nope. So if you're looking for some more mainstream things, Skype, Spotify, things like that, Linux Mint 18 actually has them. This probably, since it's based on Ubuntu 18, it probably is going to have Snap installed at least, and possibly also Flatpaks. So you could probably install it from there if the Snap package is still available. I just don't remember. So here you can just look through. Let's look at Audacity. That's something I like to install. Once I decide I'm going to install it, so it behaves very much like the basic GNOME Software Center, which is probably what it's based on, which is good. So we have access to a lot of software. There's internet. Here's video. Okay, very good. As far as everything else, it's just very light. I mean, there's not much else installed. They do have the Geary email application. I'm not a fan of that one, as I'd mentioned before. It does not look like the Tweak tool is installed by default. The Pop Shop is the software installer, which runs pretty good. Let's see if the weather is working. Okay, so there's weather. So there's our weather right now. So all you guys out there in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's 95, eat your heart out. We have rain at 41. All right. As far as anything else is concerned, you know, the packages are light. As I said, pretty much you have your basic system utilities. We have our Office. The installation process is absolutely the easiest system that I've seen on installation before. The icon pack, well, the flat modern UI design is not my favorite. This is actually very appealing, very attractive. I love their color schemes. Everything else is pretty much exactly what I had anticipated. There's your backgrounds. Oh, look at that. Welcome to colorful Colorado. You know, Colorado's got a lot of colorful places. They could have picked a better sign. If I'm not mistaken, this looks like the sign going up into... no, was it not? I used to live right in that area. I'm trying to picture where this one is. Oh, it must be one of the southern borders going up, come to think of it. Yep. Yeah, this is coming in from New Mexico, I think. Based on the direction of the mountain ranges and things. So here's some pop-specific themes. Of course, we had that one. You got this one available. Very nice images in here. I do like that they gave us more background images than you'd otherwise get. That one looks pretty cool. Let's have a look at that. That's pretty nice. Bright, but it's pretty nice. In fact, it's a little too bright for the video, I think. Let's do that one. All right. So there's that. Settings out of the box. Everything should be pretty much set to go. You do have the option to turn on or not turn on your location at the beginning. I gotta find privacy. So location was the only thing here that was specifically requested. I did turn that off. Problem reporting, you can turn that on, turn that off, depending. This is actually the test version, so I'm going to leave all that on in case I want to play with it a little bit. Connectivity checking, purge trash and files. Notifications. Oh, the other thing it gives you on the initial pop-up is your online accounts. So it does give you the option here to use your online accounts. Once again, on your online accounts here, you can use your online accounts. I use a Nextcloud one. It'll sync your folders directly into the file manager. That's about it. I mean, I don't have a lot else to say about Pop! OS. As far as recommendations, do I recommend it or not? If you like GNOME and you like Ubuntu, absolutely. No quibbles with it at all. I'm not a GNOME guy, so I probably wouldn't run it regular, but it's cool. It seems very stable. I need to play with it a little bit more to see if it is. It's a little bit lighter weight than other GNOME builds that I've seen. It does seem to work really well. It has a wonderful installer. The only downside of the installer, and this is actually something because it's the test mode, the installer will always wipe the hard drive. You don't have the option to install it alongside something else. That's something that's specific to this particular test model, but that was something they mentioned in their documentation. So let me go ahead and look at the comments, see if you guys want me to look into anything specific before we wrap this up. And then we'll see what we get here. Favorite part, despite I enjoy the whole time. Yeah. Get about Pop! OS, the kitty take the show. Yeah. Cats are ancient gods, expect their servants' hand to feed them, yeah. Pop isn't a short vid. Actually, I don't know. For me, it's pretty short because there's not a lot to it, honestly. Got another feed crash. Videos unavailable. Huh. Thought about Pop Mail. No, Pop! OS. Yeah, new Ubuntu should be out in, a week or two, I think? Actually, Carbon, there's a new, in compliance with the EU law, Google is now pushing out some things that after a certain amount of time, all data is going to be deleted. And so it's going to, that's actually applied out. I just got the emails to my business Google accounts today on that. So apparently they are going to look a little bit better. I don't like the GNOME. Looks like it's made for touch screens. Reminds me of Windows 8. Oh, really? Uh-oh. Call around and I approve the wallpaper. XP the PC nerd, do you agree that looks like the New Mexico border heading north? Or Arizona, maybe. But I'd say New Mexico. It looks like it's the road that parallels I-25 going down to New Mexico. That's where it looks like to me, based on the location of the mountains and things like that. GNOME is for artsy people, designed for a certain crowd that enjoys extensions. Love XFCE, yep. Checking out another old Gmail account and checking my account. There is nothing. Huh. So should we go away from Ubuntu base, for example, Debian, because Linux Mint still uses the Ubuntu base except for the Debian version? I'm not specifically recommending to move away from Ubuntu base at this point in time. I'm not really seeing a reason to. When Microsoft takes over Canonical, the name Pop! OS will be literally... You'd say the same. Yeah, that's I've driven that road. I'm just guessing from the position of the mountains. It's the only place where you have the flat desert on the one side with the mountain range coming up on your left heading north. That's what it looks like to me. All right, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to look at here in the desktop. I mean, not really. I mean, I pretty much covered it in 5 minutes. There you go. Pop OS in 5 minutes. All right, guys, we've already fed the kitties, so we're going to be done with that. Once again, if you'd like to help support the channel, check out switchtolinks.com/support. There either are or will be soon some Amazon links down in the description below. And shop.switchtolinks.com if you want to pick up a mouse pad, or I have travel mugs, water bottles, things like that as well. So thanks for watching, folks. Hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.